Sure, I might look delicate, but sometimes I just want to take the gloves off. Have you ever felt that way before? Fellow Toastmasters and anyone guilty of taking the gloves off a little too often, do I have some unwanted advice for you. Sometimes you can get more done and connect with others better when you have a little delicacy. Take it from me, I learned the hard way. Rewind to 14 years old. I'm a freshman in high school, sitting in the front row of Miss Fisher's chemistry class. Thick-rimmed glasses, a face full of pimples, and a Scientific American magazine in my backpack. I remember I used to wait for that magazine to come in the mail like a puppy dog waiting for its owner to come home. I was a nerd. And as Miss Fisher would soon find out, I was also a know-it-all with no sense of delicacy about it. Miss Fisher was at the front of the class making a list on a whiteboard with red marker. The phases of matter: solid, liquid, and gas. I thought, then my hand shot up. Miss Fisher, Miss Fisher. She ignored me. The phases of matter depend upon the temperature, and Miss Fisher, you made a mistake. Now there's audible silence behind me. And I say, according to the latest scientific research, there's actually multiple phases of matter beyond the initial 3, including plasma and perhaps other phases. Now, everyone continues to be silent, and they're wondering what's going to come of me. She told me to address it with her after class. So after class, I march up, and instead of addressing the situation with delicacy, the first words out of my mouth were, Miss Fisher, you're a science teacher, you should know this. Ugh. I pulled out my Scientific American magazine. I opened it to an article on Bose-Einstein condensates, a new phase of matter, and plopped it down on the table. That'll show her, I thought. Now she can thank me for educating her. That's not what happened. I may have been right, but I lost all sense of leniency and connection with her. When I got home that night, I told my mom what happened. She pulled up a chair, sat me down, and gave me a knowing look. You were right, but you didn't get what you wanted. You know, you catch more flies with honey than vinegar. And now the scientist in me is thinking, wait a second, vinegar smells like rotting fruit, so it actually attracts more flies than honey. And who wants to catch flies anyway? Yuck. But she said, Krista, sometimes you have to have a little delicacy. And she was right. Fast forward a few more years, 10 more years, to when my first son was about 2 years old, the age when humans are most irrational. I'm sure other parents in the room are familiar with this. He once tantrumed because he asked for a banana, and I gave him a banana. He didn't want me to peel it for him. And one particular day hit home for me. It's 8 a.m. He's vice gripping a Lego Duplo train and chewing it across train tracks. I'm frantically packing his daycare bag and frantically packing my work bag. I zip it up, I say, okay, time to go, put your trains away. And then I look over at him, and his little chin is wobbling. Has a child's wobbly chin ever broken your heart? Well, it broke mine. Kids are fragile at that age. They need gentleness whenever you can give it to them. And I remembered what my mom said. Sometimes you have to have a little delicacy. And I thought this applies especially to 2-year-olds. So instead of carrying him kicking and screaming away from his train tracks, I got very serious, and I decided I'll sing him a song from Daniel Tiger. It goes, it's almost time to go, so choose one more thing to do. I gave him a minute to wrap up. That was fun, but now we're done. Bye-byes, kisses to the train, lots of fanfare, and then he marches out to daycare with no fuss. I tell you, if you haven't tried listening to your mom, you should try it. Sometimes, and especially with 2-year-olds, you have to have a little delicacy. Now, my mother's getting a little bit older and recently dealt with the incredibly difficult task of caring for and losing a loved one with Alzheimer's. By this time, I had learned the lesson that everyone needs some care and understanding at some point in their life, especially at the difficult times like this. So during this time for my mom, I tried to give her some kindness. I tried to serve her delicacy. No, not a plate full of honey and flies, although if that's what you're into, that's fine. But I meant that I needed to show her interpersonal delicacy, to listen to her, to treat her feelings as valid, and this part's important, to not overwhelm with advice, My mom told me that she received enough advice between her doctors and her friends who thought they were doctors because they had a Google MD. Have you ever needed to be there for family or friends going through a difficult time? Sometimes it can be tempting to be a know-it-all, to give advice, instead of listening and understanding. And I'm still working on this myself, but when a loved one is suffering, it's important to give them delicacy. Fellow Toastmasters, whether it's with your parents, your kids, your teachers, it's important that sometimes the gloves stay on. To connect with others, to get more done, you need to temper your responses. Think back to a time when you were too quick to act, too insensitive to another's feelings. Perhaps you didn't get what you wanted, or perhaps you failed to connect with someone who needed you. Next time, remember that you catch more flies with honey than vinegar. Wait, that's not right. Remember that next time you need to have a little bit of delicacy. Thank you.